Week 179, so let's get into it. Welcome to the Raccoon Den Cottage Edition. In this video, we're going to talk about a few things, 6 things specifically. We're going to talk about the unemployment rate and what that means for the economy going forward. We're going to talk about the rate change uncertainty that's in the air. We're going to talk about months of inventory and what that statistic actually means to you as a potential buyer or seller or just an all-around real estate enthusiast. And we'll talk about the condo market and how somehow it's showing its resilience despite the months of inventory statistic that you might even find surprising. And we will get into the housing market in general, well, houses in general, and give you a window into how they are performing. And of course, we'll finish off with a general best practices for buyers and sellers who are actively in the market today. And of course, take advantage of some opportunities that are out there. And if you've been watching this video, it's no surprise where those opportunities generally are. These opportunities are in, you guessed it, the assignment world. Condo assignments, purchasing contracts before condos close, before the original purchaser sometimes takes possession, or even if they have possession, before they finally close on the unit. But we'll get into that a little bit later. So you might have noticed that unemployment has risen to 5.4%. And these are, I didn't look up July's numbers. I don't even know if they're out yet, but certainly June's numbers did come out. So 2 months in a row of rising unemployment. And you might look at that and be like, oh my God, that's horrible. But actually, it's kind of the point, and we talked about this last week. This is what needs to happen to deal with the demand side of things. Unfortunately, the way humans are designed, as long as they're well employed and they've got money in their pocket, they're going to spend, and that spending is going to unfortunately fill the demand side of things. And in this capitalist society that we have, businesses will take advantage and increase prices accordingly based on demand. So really the only way to tackle inflation right now is to take money out of people's pockets, make it a lot harder for them to access money. And sometimes that means losing jobs. And that's what's happening right now. So all of these things, as bad as they are generally a pretty good thing overall to give us an idea of when things might actually normalize again, when rates will stop going up and things like that. So we will keep an eye on the unemployment rate going forward. But right now, what's most important is, what's going to happen with the next interest rate announcement in September. Well, based on a lot of things that we're seeing, like increased unemployment, the certain industries that are starting to show some signs of slowing down, cottage properties and recreational properties getting kind of hammered out there and dropping in value left, right, and center. Despite Toronto maintaining a relatively stable footing in the real estate world, with the exception of a few deals here and there going for much lower than expected and stuff sitting on the market a little bit longer than expected. We could possibly see a hold on rates this September. And it's really, really interesting, reading about these rate hikes and what this economist says and that economist says. And, last week we talked about how I think it's hilarious that the Bank of Canada sends out a survey. Hey, what do you think we're going to do in September? Like, it's just so funny that they do that. It's proving that nobody knows what the hell they're talking about until it actually happens. Like, I have a screen grab in this week's market report. It's always linked below if you're watching this on YouTube, or it's in the comments if you're watching this on Facebook, or it'll be the link in the bio if you're watching this on Instagram. But there's a screenshot of like the same publication, which is a publication geared to the mortgage industry. And it says, the first one on July 13th or 14th, it was like rates expected to go up at the next announcement. And literally the next day, they had another article in the same publication saying that rates are likely to hold in September. One was CIBC's Benjamin Tall's opinion. The other one was the economist at Royal Bank's opinion. So, and that's all that these are. These are opinions. So nobody knows exactly what's going to happen. But I think what the general, the consensus amongst the economists and other leaders in that world is that we are at that overshooting stage, meaning going too far with these hikes. But that's what we've essentially been talking about this whole time. It's like that is the only way to guarantee that they've gone far enough. Otherwise, you're going to risk prolonging this whole situation for even longer, and nobody can afford that. So all of the pain that's being created now in the market, that's causing a lot of people a lot of problems, is for this to come to an end sooner than later. So we are in an environment where rates are going to be higher for a little longer than expected, with the Bank of Canada finally coming back down to earth with their expectation that the 2% inflation target won't be hit until 2025. Whereas, the conversation was more of a 2023 conversation at some point, which is an absolutely insane position, and it was for so long. So I'm really happy that the Bank of Canada has finally adjusted that statement. So anyway, who knows what's going to happen in September? Whether rates go up or down doesn't change the fact that some people still need to move, sell, buy, like all of that stuff still happens. So, let's try and get our minds into a more balanced state. Like, the sky is not falling. There is no situation in which the sky is falling, even though it is for certain people here and there. But overall, every single fire that has been presented to me this season, there was a solution to. Currently dealing with one right now. We thought it was the end of the world. We thought this client had to leave 6 figures on the table and move this unit. But turns out that we actually do have some funding options for them to not lose that kind of money. So even though money is tight at the A level with banks tightening up their lending practices, there are so many other options to help you put out whatever fire you think you're dealing with right now. You do not necessarily need to sell if you don't have to. A lot of these people that have these assignments that they're putting on the market and leaving all kinds of money on the table may not need to do that because of certain funding options that are available. These assignments are usually more valuable as resale properties. So selling them, if you are selling an assignment that is in occupancy or very close to occupancy right now, you may have options that don't include you losing a ton of money on that deal. So anyway, we should talk about that. Or, you know what, if you want to sell it, you need to sell it. We have buyers for that sort of thing too. So it is the beginning of August, meaning I was able to run the months of inventory numbers after all the dust has settled for July. That's the only monthly statistic that I pay attention to. Aside from that, it's all about weekly, but we can't really do weekly months of inventory reporting. It really wouldn't make much sense. So in red, I've actually changed the colors so you can see them now. In red are the ones that months of inventory went up. These are the cases where months of inventory is this statistic that we've talked about before. Basically, if there were no new listings added from today onward, the number of months it would take for the existing inventory to sell based on the current rate of sales. That's what we're talking about here. And a healthy number is around, like, let's say 3 to 4 for a somewhat balanced market. But Toronto has been operating even under 1 month of inventory in some cases. But most neighborhoods are now well above that. In fact, the only community that is under 2 months of inventory right now are houses in our urban communities. And that's where some confusion lies, I think. A lot of people think there's like a bloodbath across the board. But despite houses increasing in inventory over the past 6 or 7 weeks, they've been dropping for the past 3 or 4 weeks. But what months of inventory is not susceptible to those immediate changes. It takes more of the entire year into consideration. So we don't have too many crazy swings in that number based on listings decreasing this week or last week. So under 2 months of inventory for downtown houses is the exact reason why people aren't getting the deals they think should be available to them in the freehold market. And freehold means houses. Freehold is just something that you say when a property doesn't have a maintenance fee like a condo. So there's freehold and then there are condos. Those are the two property types we're talking about here. So if you are a house buyer right now, you might be surprised that you'll be in more competition than you thought you might be, even this time of year. And what I'm going to do going forward, and if you look in this week's article, I put a link to last year's blog. So last year's article from the same period. Guess how many houses sold at that time? Only 17. 17 houses in 1 week is the lowest I had seen it since right when COVID first hit, when everybody was paralyzed. So this time last year was when extreme pain started for a lot of sellers as we headed into the absolute bottom pit of a market that we had heading into the fall winter of last year, like October, November, September, like December, they were the worst months I have seen in a long time for real estate sales. People were scared. That's when rates were getting into really uncomfortable territory, and the news was just all over the place with that stuff. So sentiment was massively affected at that time. But it's really interesting to see and to put into perspective what's happening in the market right now when you look at what has happened last year, the year before, and even the year before that. Because like it's 2023 now. I've been doing this for 179 weeks. That means we have 179 weeks of data to look back on to just to kind of help you kind of get back down to earth when you are triggered or activated by some article that you see or something out there that has made you freak out, thinking that this is like the worst that it's ever been, or there's some serious, terrible stuff coming. Just look last year and see where we were. So our prices are higher than last year at this time. Everything is in a better position than last year at this time. We have the light at the end of the tunnel for rate hikes, whether it's this September or the one after, 2023 for sure anyway. So there's more good news in this market right now than you might think, especially those of you that are wrapped up in some sort of like, bad selling or buying situation because of, the way money's tightened up. But generally, there's a lot more positivity in this market than you might think. And that leads me to my next point, which are condos. Like with almost 4 months of inventory, and for condos, I haven't seen 4 months of inventory since like the very beginning of COVID, when the market just flooded with properties as people were freaked out. We have nearly 4 months of inventory in condo land, and I have not seen any fire sailing of condos. I have seen the exact opposite. So we also have more condo sales this week than we did this time last year. So condo sales have been way up every single week, every single month for the past year almost. So all of that stuff means that looks like despite these higher rates, entry-level buyers are having access, they have access to funds. But what is really driving the condo market right now, in my opinion, are downsizers. People that are less affected by what's happening in the market right now because they've been in their homes for many years, decades sometimes, with so much equity that a slight swing in prices doesn't really matter to them that much. So they're selling their urban house or some house somewhere and downsizing into either a local condo or a condo somewhere else. That's why a lot of the bigger stuff is selling relatively quickly. Like, especially in assignments. Like, the assignment world right now, I'm currently in 3 separate assignment deals right now that are hopefully going to close over the next couple of weeks, all well over $1 million. One of them is just over $2.5 million. These are local downsizers looking for product to downsize into. So despite everything that's going on, that segment of the market in our aging population is driving the market quite nicely right now. So, if they weren't there, I'm not quite sure where our market would be. But from entry-level buyers to those people, there is activity across the board, despite it being August, which is generally the least active time in real estate. So yeah, sales are definitely down, but they're not down more than they were in a normal market last year and the year before. They're up from last year, of course. That wasn't normal, but the year before, we're definitely up from that as well. So it's really nice to see a little less drama in the market when you really read between the lines and see what's really going on and assess your situation. So I take a lot of comfort in that. So condos and houses, that's kind of what's happening out there. So what do you do if you're a buyer right now? I mean, you got to look at why you're buying, right? And if you are out there looking for a deal, you have to define what a deal means to you. And that's the first question I ask clients when they come to me looking for a deal. I'm like, well, what does a deal look like for you? If you tell me you're trying to get like what was previously valued at $2 million for like 1.4 or 1.5, that's just not available to you in this market. So our conversation kind of ends, or we have to shift it into a more reasonable place. And if you're not willing to go there, you're just not a buyer, right? And that's okay. Like, you have to be okay hearing that because that's just real. Sure, you might have heard somebody who got this special deal somewhere, and that's cool. Those unicorn deals exist. But let me ask you this. If I brought you one of those unicorn deals right now, and I said, here is this $2 million property. We can lock it up for like $1.5, $1.6 million, but we need to do it today. Would you go to the bank and get that money to help start that process? So before you go out looking for deals, I need you to walk through it in your head. Like, deals that are presented that are actual good deals need to be acted on very quickly. And they don't come across anybody's desk too often, but they do come. And the only times that I've seen people take advantage of those are people that have gone through these scenarios in their heads with their agent. We've done a proper consultation so you understand what's what, and you understand what you need to do to get that property. Because learning about what an assignment is, the time a deal is presented to you, there's too much of a learning curve there for you to understand what you need to do to make it happen. Just talking to yourself about what you think a deal is, the time a deal is presented to you, is not a good time to do that. You need to have all of these questions answered for yourself before you even go out there and look for these deals. Money's got to be liquid. You have to be ready to get it right away. You have to get ready to lock that property up right away, because if you don't, somebody else 100% will, and we've seen that over and over and over again. So, but if you're a buyer out there looking for your next home for your family, like, who cares what's happening with the market in general? I mean, it is a consideration, of course, because you want to make sure you buy as smartly as possible. But like, you didn't decide that you want to make this move because you love moving, unless you're a psychopath. Nobody likes moving, but you're making a lifestyle decision. So let's look at that and focus on that, while of course keeping an eye on the money to make sure you are making as good a decision as you possibly can at that moment in time. But too many people are getting paralyzed with all of this different information that's out there about this rate or that rate, or should I do fixed, should I do variable? And honestly, that's a whole different discussion altogether. Should you do fixed? Should you do variable? I honestly don't know. I kind of like to do the exact opposite of what banks are pushing you to do. So if this bank is saying, oh no, you should definitely transfer out of your product now into a 6 point whatever 3-year fixed, I'm going to really look at that and be like, why? Why do you want me to transfer out of this product right now and go into this big fixed mortgage? Like, especially when rates are going to start to come down over the next year or so. They're not just going to stay here. It's just not the high rate environment that is necessary for our economy. It's necessary right now to do whatever we need to do with inflation, but like, inevitably rates are going to come down. And oftentimes when I say something like that, I get a comment like, oh, how are you so sure? It's like, well, you tell me, when have they not come down after being increased to deal with inflation? I mean, it's a pretty normal thing. That's not much controversy around that statement, right? So I just don't understand why you would lock into a longer, fixed rate right now. Historically, variables have been better, but not recent history. That's for damn sure. I mean, I know people that have locked in at like 1.89 5-year fixed like a year and a half, 2 years ago. Like, these people are laughing right now. So the fixed would have been a great option at that time. But we were also trained on this whole variable thing, and everybody just kept going variable. But anyway, so all of these things exist out there right now. As a buyer, if you're making a lifestyle decision, focus on the lifestyle stuff and keep the money talk, there as well. But like, it's all about the lifestyle more than trying to save 5 or 10 grand here and there. So it's not blow up deals because you don't think you're getting one over on the seller. I have a lot of people that like to just win. So even if I can get another like 5 grand off, I consider that a win and I'll do it. Deals fall apart like that, and it's just not really in line with what you said you wanted to do for your family, for your kids, for your work, for your lifestyle. And if you're a seller right now, what do you do if you're a seller right now? Honestly, don't sell if you don't need to. Like, the market doesn't need any more listings right now, and you just testing out some big price is really not going to be helpful for you. So get to market if you need to. And if you need to make a purchase, make sure you're selling first and not making a purchase first, unless you're looking for a unicorn to buy and you have a unicorn to sell that will sell like that. That's a discussion you have to have with your agent, But right now, you definitely need to be selling first so you know what you're working with. It's unpredictable. The underlisting strategy is working right now, where you're listing at a low price and getting a bidding war. That's working for some properties. It's not working for others. A lot of people love to laugh at these scenarios. Oh, look, this guy tried to sell his house with a big price. It didn't work. And then they tried the other strategy by underlisting it and, hoping to get a bigger price. Oh, look, that didn't work. And then they put their tail between their legs and they listed it at a reasonable price and they sold there. Like, I don't get why you mock those scenarios. These are just strategies that you use as a seller to do what you want to do. So I think it's hilarious that some agents who are very active in places like Twitter and TikTok like to mock sellers that are in those situations, thinking they're doing something. Meanwhile, they're just literally adding no value to the real estate community at all and making themselves look like fools, because it's clear that they don't understand how to properly sell and buy in this market, even though they think that they do with all their years of experience. So again, this is, unfortunate environment that exists right now, where some, realtors that have a voice on Twitter and other places, they just love to, highlight these scenarios and mock people and tell the agent that they're doing a bad job and they're self-serving and all these things. And I encourage you to shut that noise out when you're in the market and doing what you need to do. If I'm advising a seller right now, and I was a seller myself not that long ago, I didn't end up selling the house, and we might try again down the road. But it was interesting to see another agent kind of mocking the things that I was saying and doing in that scenario. Meanwhile, I haven't seen them sell or buy a house in God knows how long. I don't even know if they practice actively anymore. But we tried to. I thought I put a value on my house that was obviously more than what the market was willing to pay. So we listed it really high, and we didn't really get an offer that was acceptable. So then I tried the opposite solution. I just listed it really low, and I enticed in a multiple bidding, offer scenario, and we did get a couple of offers. And we had one in hindsight was actually a pretty good offer. I'm not going to lie. My wife thinks we should have taken it. But in reality, I think it was just leaving too much money on the table. So ultimately, we didn't sell. Because there's some other investments that I have that I would like to move some money into. But I found a way to be able to like kind of keep it all, have my cake and eat it too, so to speak. And I just found it really funny that this agent was just mocking it on their platform, made them look like a total idiot. But it is what it is, So as a seller, don't feel bad if you don't sell using your first strategy. You're going to get your property sold, and just play with different strategies and see what works best, because this market is a moving target. So, we'll do our best, put your best foot forward with marketing and all that stuff. That shouldn't change, but don't feel bad if you don't sell on an offer night if you've listed it low, or don't feel bad if you listed it high and you didn't get any offers because you tried the low listing strategy. There are so many different ways to get to the finish line here, and don't listen to all that noise out there. So anyway, that's all for week 179. Week 180 next week. I'm going to keep this going through the summer. If you have any questions about rates, about inflation, about months of inventory, about any other statistics that we talked about, or if you're a buyer or a seller, I've got a link to book a call with me below to go over your situation. But right now, I think we're just going to leave it there. So thanks so much. And from the Raccoon Den Cottage Edition, I will see you in week 180 next week. Have a great one.